Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Rural Contractors. I'm your host, Paul Osmondson, and today's topic is scheduling and timeline. This is something in the construction industry that is constantly changing, that you're going to a job and you're working, and where our timeline is affected by weather, materials, changing of the projects. So what I found myself doing was I was saying, hey, I'm going to be there on such and such a date. And I don't think this is a bad thing about me, but when I say something, I want to follow through with it. And I want to have that communication to do what I say I'm going to do. And this was a long process for me to learn, how am I being specific without shooting myself in the foot and without having to call them and say, hey, it's actually going to be tomorrow. It's actually going to be Monday. So I was getting myself in trouble by being like, we should be able to have it done by this date. So what I found myself doing was going, hey, how do I get this so I'm leaving myself room to get there when I say I'm going to be there, but just leaving it more vague. So what I kind of came down to was going, hey, I got this project, then this project, so we're roughly July or whatever. But then being in that communication with them along the process of checking in with them, putting it into my CRM, saying, hey, I need to follow up with them on this date, and just kind of let them know where we're at. But in our industry, because we get a rain day, several rain days, that can put us back quite a bit on our schedule. And then it just affects everything down the line. So by being a little more vague, but specific in the same way of going, I have this project and this project, this is where you're at on the list, this is roughly the time frame. But I kind of came up with that same spiel, like every time, saying like we're at the mercy of the weather and how the project goes. We are guesstimating on the time it's going to take us to complete that project. But I feel like that allowed them to know where we're at and just continuing to be specific without being specific. But also in my timeline of saying, hey, to come and looking at a project, of being specific and showing up when we're going to show up. Like, that is something that's very important to me, and I feel like it is important to a lot of people too. If it's not very important to you, you might be frustrating a lot of your clients. So scheduling and timeline is something that is really difficult to do because of what we have going on. So what are some tools that you can use to get this down? So I created a Gantt chart, which what it allows you to do is keep the current date of where you are on your project. And then when you update it, it pushes everything down on your calendar. Very handy than having to move everything. And that's where, as carpenters, we hate when we have to go in and move everything. But by creating a system where you can just push it down and it pushes everything back and it changes your dates and you can look at that and inform your people, is a very handy tool to go and create. But not only just having that tool, but realizing if I keep it all in my brain gets congested, and it's constantly like, it's like not setting an alarm the next morning. Am I going to wake up in time? I got to be there at this time. I got to do this. By writing it down, and not only just timelines, but writing down the tasks and having them written down, it gave my brain the mental relief to go, yep, I know I have that written down and I have it in order so that I can keep track of that information. The stress that it relieves off your brain is pretty incredible. So I hope this episode was helpful, talking about the schedule and timeline, and I don't feel like I was very clear on that, but to be able to be flexible, but yet informing them enough that they still feel like they're in the loop and they have an idea, and it's not like you're just continuing to kick the can down the road, and informing them of where you are in the project. Because it was so annoying to me when I would say, hey, I'm going to be there on July 5th, and we didn't get done with our project, and I'd have to call them and say, hey, it's actually going to be another day. And then I'd have to call them the next day and be like, actually, it's going to be one more day. The materials we needed didn't come in. And it's just this constant flow. But when it was actually time and it's like, okay, I know we're going to be there in the next week or so, you could kind of call them, let them know, hey, we're going to be there in the next week. We don't know exactly what day, but we're going to be getting there pretty soon. And then, calling them and being like, hey, we're going to be there tomorrow morning. Game on. Hope this episode was helpful, and we'll catch you on the next one.